Hi guys, I'm Jen. Welcome to my channel. Today's video I want to make about controlling belief systems and where they come from. So for me, the way I recognize control is where, like I had to recognize where I was controlling other people and other people were trying to control me. And in the beginning, what it was is I found people were controlling my emotions. They were withholding from me in order to try to get me to chase them, to overgive to them, even though I was already overgiving to them. And then they would ignore me, and I wouldn't get compliments, and I would get like breadcrumbs of compliments, so you can, when you see those videos and like you see like my boyfriend's an asshole kind of thing, like it's like these people, they ride that line of like it's a gray zone, right? It's emotional and mental abuse. And so they're going to try to make you, they play with your feelings and they play with your mind. And they do this because they can get away with abusing you without putting their hands on you. And this is where it's so confusing, because a lot of people will say like, my partner hitting me is not okay, and that is a hateful act. But like my partner, like ignoring me, but when I claim that they're ignoring me, they'll just say, no, I was busy, but they really weren't busy, right? There are things, this emotional gray manipulation, mental abuse is gray. It's like, you can't put a finger on it because it's like gas in the room. The behavior is where you can't prove it. And so you're forced to read between the lines. And that's why, unfortunately, like with a lot of justice systems, like you need hard black and white evidence, not gray assumptions and presumptions, right? And so even though you can see patterns in this behavior, unfortunately, like in the court systems, like even with cops, like if you think someone's stalking you, you can tell like the way they're, I had a situation where the guy was like pretty much saying out loud that he was stalking me, and because he had information that I had not given him. So where did he get that information from? But I can't prove, because the cops require me to have a picture of him driving by my house, more than once, to say like there's no reason for him to be in that area. But when he mentioned a building that was just down my block, and that was it. And then he also mentioned where I live without me giving that. So he had gone outside of me to go find information about me. That's called stalking. But because I can't prove it, the cops can't do anything about it. And that's kind of what this is. It's like, and that's why it's so hard to pinpoint it, because it's something that is like gas in the room. Like you might be able to, like it's, that's why they add with a scent to gas, because it's scentless, right? And so in order to, that's why we have carbon monoxide detectors, and that's what your intuition really is. And so there are systems that I've experienced that are very, promote this sort of behavior and really grow in it because of the rules I've been put in place. So the one area is religion. I associate that because when I was in a religious group, they had a lot of rules for no reason. And it's like talking about like, if you don't obey, God is gonna punish you if you sin, and you're gonna go to hell. And so you have to ask for forgiveness. But like in reality, asking for forgiveness from God when you're just growing and based on what your parents are giving you as guidance, I mean, like as a child, that's such a weird thing to say, like, I need you to ask forgiveness for hitting Johnny. But like, I don't know not to hit Johnny. Like, you guys are meant to teach me that. So like when I hit Johnny, yeah, okay, so like I'm learning. But like that whole forgiveness part is kind of weird, because it's like like forgiveness for being human. And the problem with this though is that there are people that do this intentionally, and they get off the hook, and they're given this weird like forgiveness, but like their actions were actually intentional. It's such a weird concept, right? And it's like, so the thing is, for me in church, I didn't get all the fine details in the lines. You're just given like forgive and forget, forgive and forget, forgive and forget. And then we're also taught to obey our elders. Well, there's a lot of elders of mine that lack a lot of information and morals and values. And so that, I can understand while we're putting these messages out, why a lot of children become prey to predators, because the message we're being sent at that time was, listen to your adults, listen to the elders, like they know best, right? And then so it's interesting. that these kind of belief systems are put out there, and we're just meant to abide by them. And then I just found some of the stories in the Bible are just kind of, I wasn't there, and I just don't take it because I wasn't there. So like, if that's what they said happened, that's cool. But like now that belief system is forced on me, I just don't believe it. I don't know what to tell you. Like the parting of the seas sounds odd to me. Like unless that was like some sort of like hurricane coming through, I just don't see how that could happen. The Noah's Ark thing, well, I think to me, I can relate to it like as a metaphoric situation to where I've had to do some odd things in my environment where a lot of the people see it as weird and crazy. And so the ark to me is like building your own boat to rise above the emotional abuse and you know the mental manipulation. So like you rise above it, and like when I no longer am attached to those emotions and the abuse that involves, now I can level up and balance out. And so like I see it more of that story. I don't know about, like, I'm sure, I don't know, is there some sort of like there could be evidence that these things did happen, but like how would you prove that the Red Sea's parted, like other than just someone telling you that, you know? And so like to me, well, I do believe that in some ways of life I think we believe in things because if we had nothing to believe in, that's too scary. So I think that's why some of these folklores and things are presented to us in a way to teach children how to behave. But unfortunately, what some of them have is like these fear-mongering belief systems tied into them to where now you're controlling people through fear and not necessarily through discipline and guidance and support and teaching, you know, of how to be that. And instead it creates these crutches of codependency instead of this independence of curiosity and creativity. And I do think that's by design. And so yeah, it's just I find a lot of these things, and even in the spiritual community, it's I've gotten stuck based on like you have to feel it to believe it, and well, I think that is part of it. If I don't feel it and I don't believe it, then I have to ask myself why. And so maybe I need more experience, maybe I need more action, maybe I need to, you know what I mean? As opposed to just, well, like this is, because like if it's not happening, I don't know. It's a conflicting thought for me. It's like, you know, there's many times where I believed it and it did not happen. I believe I should win the lottery, and you know what? I believe I'm a good person, and that does not make me a lottery winner. You know? I don't know. So that's where it's just I'm missing a lot of these. I think it's kind of like Santa Claus. Like they use Santa Claus. Like you're not going to get gifts if you're not good. Like that's kind of like karma, right? If you're good, you get gifts. But that's like Santa Claus. And like I've been good. And the gifts that I've gotten has been the ones to myself, which is rest and recovery of self and moving myself away from all these belief systems that are put on us to try to get us to conform and behave and be obedient, when in reality we need to act out and get curious and ask questions and get angry. So I feel like these belief systems were put out there to kind of blanket us like a wet blanket, to like stagnate us from growing. You know how if I want to kill off the grass, I'll put a black pond lining out there and that will kill it. I use the plastic lining too to kill the grass so I could plant plants, right? Because it's a fast, easy way to kill the grass, the growth. Okay? So like these belief systems, here's the thing. So this doesn't work if we just put out doom and gloom. So they realize we got to mix this in with some emotional comfort and warmth, right? So like that's where the spirituality comes in too, is like, you know, and the message of God loves you and things like that. Like they add these things in to kind of build some sort of like emotional comfort and safety within it. But like if you're always waiting for God to come save you, and you're just sitting there waiting and you're not having any action, that is part of our problem, because a lot of people are here sitting on the fence, sitting on the couch, waiting for someone else to come save them, or waiting for a message from God when they're surrounded by drinking and sugar and alcohol, or that's drinking, sex. Like they're doing all these things to numb themselves out. How do you think you're going to get the message through all these layers of addictions and substance abuse. They're numbing the noise, and you need to hear the noise to know what's wrong. So like all these layers of comfort, like, which is religion, spirituality, things like drinking. Like people will consider drinking like a way to relax, and it's not a way to relax. It's poisoning your body. It's toxins. You're adding toxins to your body, and you're relaxing. That's relaxing. No, that's numbing. So we have to get the language right. We also have to get the painful truths of, like, what if someone's not coming to save you? Like, look at this planet and look at the problems. We created them. We can solve them, but we created them as a whole. This isn't just men being men and women being women and predators being predators and prey being prey. This is like all of us have a part to, like, we contributed to this. This is like people looking at the children and associating a behavioral issue with the children, but not looking at where the environment they grew up in and what's with the parents. Well, the parents are the adults, so it's not the parents' fault. Maybe the parents don't have certain tools, but like maybe the parents are just selfish. Let's go like, oh, but the parents had the kid, so the kid must be cared for by the parents, but maybe the parents had the kid for the wrong reason and they don't actually see that kid as a human. Like, they're out there by the dozens. So like, it's like there's assumptions we place because someone has a kid that makes them a good person or connected, or like because they're a mom and a dad, because they had a kid that makes them grown, that makes them caring, that makes them a good human. And it's like all these things, like it just makes it easier to go along, to get along, instead of looking at the situation and being like, hey. And then there's some people who just feel more comfortable with their dysfunction because it's all wrapped up in a pretty little gift and a pretty little package, and so they tell themselves we're good, but that person in that messy, ripped up clothing, they look kind of bummy. I think I don't think they're a good person. Look at their hair, it's greasy, they haven't showered. That's called depression. That's not ability, that's not somebody's morals and values. Depression is from taking on too many negative emotions from other people and not recognizing it. Now, some people go into those rooms intentionally because they not necessarily intentionally, but like they're drawn to the wounding of that, like something about that hurt. Feel, like when you work out and you can feel the pain for gain. It's the no pain, no gain. That's not for your heart space. Your heart space, it doesn't need pain. It's got enough. At this point, everybody has way too much pain in their heart, it feels like, and like that's where we don't need to work more, we need to rest more, because in the rest is like, that's where the clarity comes from, that's where the curiosity is, taking time out. So I just find that these belief systems have created a very comfortable way of living amongst people, where they've convinced themselves they're good people because they're living by the word of God, and they're living a spiritual lifestyle, or they're living in line with the universe. But like sometimes, like when I've recognized things where I'm like doing what I think I need to do, and I've had somebody plopped in my path, that's not alignment. That's a test. That's like, that person is still the same as the past people. I still haven't, and a lot of people just settle right there because it's easy. This is fast, easy energy. That's not growing, that's not learning, that's not guiding. That intimidation, that fear mongering, that parent that says, I'm going to put you in your place. That's not tough love. That's intimidation. So you have to intimidate your animal. You have to intimidate your kids to get them to respect you. No, they fear you. They're in survival mode. They're frozen and they're defensive, and they don't love or respect you. They're doing what they need to do in order to survive. And so like, that's when the child eventually, like, I think gets pressed and gets out, because it's like, and then these parents, it's kind of like these husbands or wives, because it's wives too. Wives are getting left. It's not just women, but like they don't know where the divorce came from. They don't know why the kids don't connect anymore. It's like, because you were disconnected as a parent, and your delusion was that I have to respect you because you're my parent. No, I do not. If you're not respectable, I don't have to respect you. And I think this is where a lot of behavioral issues are coming, because parents are like so short with their time and their attention, and they're so short with things. They're so short with like they just want what they want when they want it, but like it's for all the wrong reasons. I don't know. So when I learn to find controlling people in my environment, it's the ones who want to try to tell me what to do when they haven't done it themselves. And I had to learn how to recognize that. It's competitive energy. I don't like that competitive energy because they're trying to, they're trying to control the attention. So because they need all that attention, they don't want me to have any of it. So they're going to try to control how people not only see me, but how people see them. And all of a sudden now they're doing what I'm doing. It's kind of weird. It's super weird, actually. And I, you know what? I love inspiring people. That's one thing, but copying what someone else is doing is a totally different thing. You got to find your own gift, your own like way. Like everyone has their own experiences, their own perspective when they hit rock bottom. And hopefully you don't have to hit rock bottom, but like I believe we all have a gift inside of us. And so, yeah, I just think, and I had to recognize when I was trying to control people too, because I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it. So I was like, the people that were in my environment, I'm like, okay, this must be my team, this is my tribe. But I had to recognize, were they even capable of like giving what I was giving? And so not settling with people who aren't capable. And it's not to say like you're better than them or whatever. It's just the level of awareness and wisdom can be different. And so like if someone isn't aware of how their wounds are bleeding on everybody else, then they're going to be like, you know, it's like having an open wound and spraying all over. And it's just like, they're just like, what? And it's like, it's going on, it's spraying on everybody. And they can't see the mess that it's making. Because they're just, they're in their victim mind. And so like that's what I mean. It's not necessarily people that are, you know, coming for you and competitive. It can be the people who have been wounded for so long and still don't want to pick up the message and recognize like, you know, something's going on here. You gotta do something different. So both can be damaging. Both can be controlling, because like one tries to control how you see them by playing like they're soft and they're victim-y and they're safe. But like when you try to tell them the hard truth, that is the first, that's going to be that feral cat energy comes out. And the same thing happened for me when I get in a realization, an answer that I don't like, I gotta like I'm getting a sting. This is something where I'm just trying to figure out like what is going on, and so like instead of like taking it out on somebody else, like I gotta find out, why am I triggered? What makes, and that's when I find out why am I triggered. I'm like, that's why, because this is something I was looking for outside of myself, and it's within me to figure out. I can figure this out. And that's where the confidence starts coming. And that's where I lose the control of having to like feel like I need people around me at the time. And I can actually build myself, support myself. And so it's like, but it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Why? Because this was meant to happen as a child with kind, caring, nurturing parents. And I didn't get that. So I had to grieve that. And now I have to try to find my way forward. And so like some of these losses I've had were from the, you know, biggest hits were people trying to control my growth and who I am. And they wanted to smush me back down because they want all the air in the room. You know, there's not enough for me. And there's only enough for me if I can fill their balloon up first, you know, like, and so they can rise higher than me. And so that's where a lot of controlling people, if you pay attention, they're not going to want good things for you. And so like, you won't know that until you start leveling up. You won't know that until you start stepping out. And that's where I had a lot of the challenge, is being out amongst myself, by myself, and having everybody like come for me. Not everybody, but a large amount of people come for me. It felt large for me because I wasn't around anybody else. And like, that's the whole point. They're trying to isolate you. You're an easy target because you're already isolated. But you got to ask, why am I isolated? Because I was isolated in childhood. So you got to keep bringing this back. If you're trying to grow yourself and you're staying in contact with the family members that didn't want you to grow, and we're also supporting the people who didn't want you to grow, like what kind of growth are you going to get there? It's empty. It's like a chocolate bar when you're trying to eat carnivore, you know? It's like you can't, it's conflicting. It's not for you. It's not going to happen. And so I had to recognize that. And the thing is, like, the longer you stay there, the harder it is. It's not like it's impossible, but the harder it is, because the longer you walk on that path, the more ways you have to walk back and clean that shit up. Karma is another delusion. It's like, because I'm a good person, I get good things. I get good things because I treat myself good and I work for what I want, you know, and I don't look for anybody else outside of myself. I don't have sellout energy. You know, sellout energy, you don't feel good in that. You don't feel strong and solid and confident. And so these people that are selling out are insecure. And so then they do have more resources and more friends to outnumber you, but you're still winning. So like, how powerful are they? So the thing about this is, this control that is happening is actually like puppet strings, because like they don't have to actually touch you to get you to think less, and like that fear mongering, that lack mindset, all of these things is like making us pay more for gas, making us think there's no gas, making us pay more for groceries when there's an abundance of groceries. Like they're throwing out groceries, but they still feel the need to overcharge. Because there's things where I'm like, there's groceries that are half off now, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just because they got to keep the shelf moving. That's so fucked up. So it's a greed thing. It's not like a demand thing. There's things out there, and it's like, it's not only that. It's like the people who are greedy want to use the resources for themselves. Like with these AI centers, it's like they're using all this water, but like we're charged water just for surviving. That's so fucked up. Water is here. While I understand it costs money to clean the water and store the water and those things, I understand that part, but like we're even being charged to walk in nature. So it's like, it's almost like we're trying to, like a certain tier is like being controlled and like conformed and cornered and trapped. But at the same time, the people that are above that think they're safe because you think they're not coming for you next. These people have no limit. That's why they're billionaire trillionaires, and people just don't want to see that. They're like, well, I'm safe because I'm up here. No, you're not. And you're pointing down like, oh, that sucks to be them. You know, that sucks. That sucks that they can't afford groceries. Oh, are we going grocery shopping? Yeah. Okay, let's go to Loblaws. Okay, yeah, let's go. And it's just like, how detached are you from this? Like, this is a problem we all have to fix together. We can't just do it. We can't just let these people at the bottom struggle. And at the same time, like, we have to, like, there's a system. There's got to be a way to do it where it's like, we're not just, the same people aren't carrying the burden over and over again either. So the answer is painful truths, being accountable, being responsible, keeping a goal, moving forward with it, and not just letting people just sit there and do nothing when they're more than capable. And it's not even about them doing nothing. Like, if people are sitting there, like, what are you doing with your time? Are you making the most of it? Like, if you have resources, use them. Like, if you have time, use that time to rest and recover instead of re-injuring the same wound over and over again. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't always articulate myself the best because I'm still trying to work this out for myself, but there's just some things where it gets frustrating because it feels like when you've been the one required to carry everyone else's burden, it's hard because, like, there are people who are actually being targeted and burdened and haven't been able to get out of it, and then there's one that are intentionally targeting and benefiting from it. And so, like, I don't know that my message is hitting for the same people. I think I'm just coming from a place where this is frustrating to watch because, like, you know, it feels like people are trying to grow and there's some people that are just so comfortable with not. And it's just kind of like, guys, like, we all got to do our part here together. Like, and you know, some of the things is like, we need to make up a system where we're working as a group and not against each other. We need to stop with the content where we're targeting people who, you know, are just trying to survive and get through it. Instead of the ones that, you know, are clean cut and seem to be successful. In reality, they're the ones that are, it's so weird, like, part of the problem. You're just like, this is so unprofessional. I just watched a video where it's like, this guy was like a counselor or something at his school, and he's 29, connecting with a 14-year-old, and this is not the first time. And it's just odd how, like, he had similar things in the past, and like, they didn't just take him right out of there. They allowed him to stay in the environment, from what my understanding is. And this is the problem. It's like, when we recognize a predator, we kind of soften it because we're uncertain. Well, let's get certain what a predator looks like, and let's start making it. And then let's find out where these predators are coming from. What is building, like, there's got to be something building these predators. Maybe it is a lack of accountability. Maybe it is entitlement. That seems to be a theme, right? So, like, if that's a theme, where is the accountability? And I do feel like a lot of women do feel on the end of this, where it's like, we've been part of the targets, but we're also part of the problem, being the enablers at times too, because we just have such a, you know, we'll say we have such a big heart, we just want to help, but like, help or enabling? What are we doing here? Are we helping or enabling? Are we guiding and supporting, or are we helping? Because helping says, I'm doing it for you. Guiding and supporting says, I'm telling you how to do it, and I'm here for when it gets hard, but I'm not going to do it for you, right? So we got to look at how we're helping, enabling, guiding, or supporting. Like, what is it happening here? Why are we carrying all these burdens for people who need to be learning how to do it for themselves? Like, you know, support temporary support needs to be partnered with the right kind of guidance to get people in the right direction and not enabling them into lower stagnation. Like, we got to get it up and going. It's not always movement, but it is like the painful truth, and asking those questions. So I'm going to start making some videos, I think, that way, because it's in the painful truths without those safety nets where I get the biggest amount of growth. And so, like, if you're sitting there, you know, praying and manifesting without any sort of action or clarity on where you want to go, like, that feels a little bit lost to me. And so it's in the action when you find out what you don't want to do, then you're going to find out what you do want to do. And so maybe getting clear on what you do want and what you don't want, and aligning your goals with that. So, like, if you want to be healthy and you're not making healthy choices, ask yourself, why am I not making these choices? Well, if I can't eat healthy and stay focused, then what is that problem? For me, it's my finances. My finances aren't stable right now. So I'm trying to make better choices, but it's challenging when it's unstable. So so maybe it's not the time to, like, maybe I can remove certain items, right, to start the healing of my body, but understanding that as long as I don't have that financial stability, that's something I need to focus on more. And so it's about, like, making better choices, and yes, quitting things, but, like, remember, those things were put in place for your survival. And for me, I've had to use some of these numbing agents and things along my path to get there. So they're also, like, controlling agents in their own right. So but when you learn to recognize what they're trying to tell you, they can help you recognize where you're still at and what you're still struggling with, right? So, like, if you're still crutching on these things, you're still not independent enough, right? You're still relying on other things, other people, anything outside of yourself. And so, like, for me, it's like these things drop away the more independent I get and the better choices I make. But I'm making hard choices. I'm not just sitting here passively manifesting. I'm like, I'm making big moves. I'm taking big risks. And some of them are calculated and some of them are not. Some of them don't make sense right now. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't go back to it because that didn't make sense either. I don't know if that makes sense. That's what I got to say. So I'm going to close this off. Hopefully this is helpful. I'll keep doing these videos to make it more refined in the way that my message comes out. But all I'm trying to say is there's a lot of feel good messages, support groups that make you feel good in the moment, but actually aren't adding to your growth, and they're keeping you actually stuck while trying to convince you that you're doing different. This is like, yeah. And so recognizing, like, for me, when I took all those safety nets apart and I had to do it myself, like, I can think of divine timing. I see that, and that's wonderful. But at the same time, like, if I'm relying on the divine to catch me during this next phase and I'm not doing enough to support myself, then it's just going to be another failure and I'm going to lose my house. So there's things like that. And while there are other things that I'm being guided to go towards as well, like, that's things too. But these are all actions that I'm taking. I'm not just sitting in my house hoping that the mortgage gets paid. That's not what I'm doing. I'm working. And then when I'm doing something, I'm like, can this be better? Could I do this differently? This isn't happening fast enough. How can I make it happen faster? And that's when I'm going to look at doing the Patreon, because there are people that want to pay me, and I need to make sure that's available, like other avenues, so people can pay me for whatever they're able to. So these are things looking at, also recognizing where the control can now, not only are people trying to control how you see yourself and for making moves, because they're making you feel, oh, another thing, I don't believe in evil eye and curses. I don't believe in that, because it's just another way of, like, getting you to, like, not do something, or, like, okay, that's another thing, is, like, also, like, taking on someone else's energy. I don't believe that. That puts the accountability on somebody else. So, evil eye, things are breaking in my house. Well, maybe I'm buying cheap things. Maybe I'm buying the wrong things. Maybe I'm not, there are things where it's like, I had a family member where they're just not aware of their surroundings and they're really rough on things. And so they don't treat things with respect. If you don't treat things with respect, you're not treating yourself with respect, and you're not really recognizing the cost of those things and what it costs to purchase those things. And so, like, when you start becoming an adult and that comes from your pocket, you know what it takes to replace those things, and so you're more careful with them. And So I think that's also with these evil eye and curses. I don't believe in those. I think it's the curses are things like generational curses, because like there's been no growth over the generations, or there hasn't been a large amount of growth to where like the people of the past have not done what they need for you to, you know, get to where you need to go. And so like these are what I think of, like we can name them as generational curses, but what they are, they're just past patterns. You know, people like doing the same thing, thinking we're going to get something different. You know, this is like, you know, taking the advice of my father when he is not in the place that I want. Like, I don't want to be where he's at. So why would I take his advice, right? I wouldn't. And I think growing up, I knew that. I sensed something, like something's off here. Like you guys are telling me to do one thing, but you're not able to do it yourself. So it's kind of like, how am I supposed to respect authority when the authority is not respectful or intelligent or educated or have the right intention? Right? So then, and that's where I find, like, just with, you know, when we believe that, oh, that's, I'm an empath and I absorb other people's emotions. Okay, well, how do you recognize your emotions then? You know, it's just kind of a woo-woo belief system. Well, I can be manipulated by other people using their emotions to manipulate me. If I can't recognize that the emotions with me are mine, and I still have some revision to do, I still need some, like, I'm still an emotional place. So like if you're always blaming your emotions on everybody else because I'm absorbing everybody else, that's a victim mentality for me. That's a victim mentality. It kept me stuck, and it prevented me from looking at what was making me so emotional. Like, what were my choices? You know, so it takes your accountability. Well, like, people, I just absorb people's emotions, so that's just who I am. So I'm emotional, so now you have to put up with my ticking time bomb emotions. You know what I mean? Or I just don't know how to, you know, I get frustrated once in a while, so you're just going to have to put up with my emotional unleashments, my emotional hurricanes. That's just who I am. Or it's that time of month, so this time of month, that gives me permission to lash out and be unhinged. Like, that's not okay. That's not okay. This is still your responsibility. And so when we put these things like periods, when I have my period, am I in pain? Yeah, that makes me like more susceptible, where I'm like agitated, because pain makes you agitated. That's an, you know, but that pain doesn't make you insult somebody. Pain doesn't make you insult somebody with a, like, name calling. That's something you're comfortable with. That's something you become comfortable with, whether someone's done it to you or something like. When you realize like that, like, and that's the thing, is people aren't realizing this is painful, maybe painful, I don't know, it's like the lack of recognition and pain, I feel, and it comes out through the emotions. So a lot of excuses create a lot of delusion, and that's what I found. If I'm making excuses for other people, then I'm making excuses for myself. And so I've learned to see where a lot of these systems in our society make a lot of excuses for what people are experiencing, instead of taking accountability for the choices that they're making. And like, there's some things that it feels like, obviously I can't control everyone's behaviors outside of myself, but I can choose what rooms to go in and which ones not to. And I do have choice. And so that's where I can control my choice. That's all. I can control how I respond to other people, what I allow other people to do within my power. Outside of that, I can't control that. And those are things that I'll have to grieve and work through, but it's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to stop. So hopefully that message is helpful. Like I said, this is kind of unscripted, so I just try to speak what is coming out. Hopefully this will get a little bit more articulate, but I am ready for breakfast, and so I'm a little bit hungry. And yeah, so I'm going to close off. Hopefully this is helpful, and be sure to like and subscribe. There are ways to support me while I grow my channel and grow myself. They're in the description box. I'm adding some other, I think I'm going to add Buy Me a Coffee, and I am, like I said, building a Patreon channel to where I can add other content on a different level for those of you that do value what I have to say and want to add some money in there, if you're able. So I don't know, I just saw something, it was a big bug. But anyways, okay, thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Thanks for watching.